I'm Chris Bush. I'm a solution architect with Pivotal, formerly a platform architect who's worked with Mastercard for a number of years. And
hi, I'm Raj. I'm a cloud architect from Mastercard. I work on the integrations of TBM with PCF.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we're here to talk to you today about some things that Mastercard is doing for showback, chargeback, currently showback from their platform, but really from a lot of things that they've already been doing over the years. So we'll give you kind of an overview of these points here as we go through this presentation in a session. So Mastercard started, I think it's probably about 6 years ago. I actually was working for Mastercard at that time, and we were developing a service-based view of the entire organization, from business units down through shared services, down to infrastructure, compute, networking, storage. And we were using that to try to determine a more accurate measurement of the cost of running a business system. So I had everything from the lowest levels, everything was a service. So I was getting everyone to determine what it costs for storage, for SSD versus mini disk storage, all the way up. So we were trying to do that, and we're getting fairly effective. And we were integrated into a tool called Apptio, which Raj will talk about in a little while, to do this technology business management capability. And now with the new Pivotal Cloud Foundry platform, we're now working with Mastercard to be able to pull that data. And that's not only from the foundations that are running, but also from the IaaSs in which they're running on. So you need to pull both sets of data to make a more accurate reading, as well as the pieces and parts that aren't in the system, like monitoring and things like that, that are more flat rate costs that are spread out across all the business units using the platform. So technology business management, that didn't format too well.
Okay.
Here.
So thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm here to really give some kind of tidbits on what's TBM, because that's the driver for all our efforts on PCF, getting the usages and stuff. So really it's eye chart, but if you really want to know, how many are using TBM at your place? Oh, great. Okay, that's a good representation here. So basically, TBM is nothing but running IT as a business. Okay, that's the essence. So TBM is basically enabling a cost transparency, which usually the business doesn't know how much is costing them in IT world, So the IT is going to be transparent with all their cost, and they're going to give what is the cost of doing a transaction. Being a Mastercard, right? So if we are able to find the transaction cost, then we can work on our markups and all those things based on that. So it's easy for the business to do some calculations their side, how much they can charge their customers and stuff. So TBM is really a key initiative from Mastercard, and we have been the early adopters in TBM too. And this is a quick view of TBM, what TBM ties, what are the benefits. It's basically optimize, rationalize, innovate, transform. I'm not reading the slide, but just give an idea. TBM is basically bringing all the parties together. This is what was missing earlier, because everyone is in their own island doing something. And when it comes to are we really profitable on this particular product? It is really a kind of a no-no, like no one knows what's happening. So the efficiency and effectiveness is all gone if there's no transparency. So TBM basically ties the business, ties the IT, ties the finance team, and also the regulations, like a lot of regulation bodies are there. So tying all those things together will really bring a complete picture of what's happening. So we might be doing a best product from our perspective, but it may not be really doing good in the market. So those are the things will be very visible when we start using this TBM. So this is basically the driver for all our PCF usage report efforts. So this is what driving our implementation of PCF, all the plugins that calculates the usage and those things. So jumping into this, maybe Chris can do this. Isn't the service-based?
So this more reflects of some of the work I did several years back in this structure of kind of an enterprise view of services, the business software, utilizing shared services across the organization, possibly other business APIs and infrastructure underneath the hood. So this kind of gave that holistic view of the organization. Truly, it was really reflective of the organization and how it laid out across all the products that were being developed and reused across the organization. So it was not only a good organizational view, but a good financial input and a good input even to their global service management organization for GSM, for ticketing systems as well. So it was a pretty interesting project, but it helped roll up costs for showback. No chargeback is being done yet. I think there are plans in the future for the chargeback, but right now, I think the vision there is $0, zero cost to IT there at some point in time.
Sure. Okay, so the tool that we use to do the TBM is Apptio, and it's a SaaS solution, and we are one of the pioneers in using Apptio. We have been using it almost like 4 years now. And we did work with the vendor, like trying to bridge the gaps between PCF and Apptio. We have the technology called the data link of Apptio that sits in our premises and start pushing all the usage data into Apptio. And also there is an online data agent that pulls information from Azure, Google, all those other cloud providers and pushes into Apptio. So Apptio is basically the core for our TBM initiative. And if you see what are the things we are collecting, so if you see here, like the data, the usage report plugin is what we are going to use for currently, and it is going to get overwritten by a different app which is more sophisticated. But for now, what we do is like we get the plugin from each of those foundations. So we have different foundations. It starts from the sandbox, dev, stage, prod, and the prod is in different geographies like Belgium and like Dublin. All the foundations are all connected centrally in a center place, and it's pushing everything. This plugin is going to ping all these foundations, get the usage data, then push it to the Apptio. So this basically helps the finance team to do their calculations from their side. They don't have to wait on any manual operations. This is all driven by our pipelines. That's the main thing. Like Concourse, every day it runs and pulls all the data and pushes to Apptio, so that the finance team can have these things in the table, and they will start using this data. And if you see what is the real metrics that we want, it's the AIs, application instance. The runtime is what is being used as a metric for the charging or showback or chargeback model. So for example, if you see here, a PCF foundation consists of Diego cells, and within Diego cells is the application instance. So how many application instance and application needs, that is what they are going to get charged. So now a couple $1,000 for an year for an AI will give an idea for the application and the business. Okay, so if I want to run my product in this PCF, this many thousands per year is what is going to cost. So that clarity was not available earlier in the traditional world. It's always like throw whenever there is a need, when there is a peak performance, throw something, then get a surprise later. So those things are all gone. And if you see our pipeline implementation is really wonderful, like daily basis. Business is getting the feedback daily basis. Usually it used to be like quarterly or a monthly until the finance team reports the usage. They don't have any idea. But now the business is having a everyday feedback on the usage, and if there is a marketing campaign that's going to go kick off tomorrow, they can scale up their environment, make sure it's not going to crash, all those things. So that is the beauty of having a daily feedback on usage. And this cost model is what is going to help all the application teams, business, finance, to be in the same page. They all talk the same language. That is the key for the TBM. So yeah.
So with the first implementation there, Mastercard is using a CF CLI plugin called Usage Report. Is anybody familiar with that? All right. So it gives you just AI data. It's not giving even SI data back. So we need something a little bit more robust. So the work in progress here is to get not only AI data, but all the SI data and all the data from each one of the IaaSs as well. So there's a little restriction there in getting those. That's a little bit of, they get some monthly data on the vSphere usage utilized, and they get the monthly data from an API for what they've used in that month that way. So they can get that at this point. Hopefully down the road, there'll be more accurate mechanisms to get that. Apptio is saying they're working on a cloud implementation now for getting data directly from the IaaSs. So we'll see how that goes. And then on the app side, we needed something else to work there to give better data back. Inside of AppsMan, or in the deployment of AppsMan, Applications Manager, in PCF, there's a tool called App Usage. So has anybody used the App Usage API? Okay. So App Usage API can give you data, but it's only on an org by org basis. So you have to iterate through all the orgs and stuff. So we wrote an external tool called CF Orgs Usage that iterates through all of the organizations within a foundation and gathers all the AI data. So it's a single API call. And you can either give it a date range, or you could say everything this month, so it figures out the calendar date that you're on and goes back to day one of the month, or today or yesterday or whatever. So there's some static endpoints because Apptio is a tool. There's a data link connector that pulls in the data. And you can't just update it dynamically with a new date every day or every month, however often you want to collect it. It's pretty much a static setup. So we developed the tool in that sort of way to make usage of it. So that's what this is reflecting, is that we're trying to pull in this data with these Apptio agents, and then what other agents we can have for the IaaS, bring that data and import it into Apptio's data store so that it can then be reported upon and married up with data that's necessary to give showback usage to the business unit. Okay, so the app usage, the CF Orgs usage application, we developed it specifically with a lot of the Apptio data link in mind. Okay, it goes through all the orgs. You can get AIs, you can get SIs, and I did seed it with tasks. Tasks isn't complete yet, but is anybody even using task capability, doing CF pushes on tasks? Yes, I figured that. It's very low usage right now, but it's deployable as an app. So you can deploy it yourself with a CF push anywhere in any org or space, or also develop a tile for it so you can easily put it into your pipeline and easily deploy it. It creates an org called a space called usage audit in the system org, so it keeps it in the system space for you. So it acts like a system tool. And it creates a specific user to run by, so it has access to the entire foundation so it can get all the data. If you were to deploy it yourself and you only had access to one org and a few spaces, that's all the data the tool would return, okay? But you have to give it a more powerful user. But it's a great way to be pulling the data in across the entire org.
Cool. Yeah, this is, and if you have noted, our pipelines are all tied to the flow doc. So you could have seen some notifications coming here. So we are like 6-member team, which controls like thousands of AIs. So all our automation is in stage prod, everything is automated, no manual user IDs or anything. So that's why you get the notification here. So we are kept updated, So coming back to the topic here, the tagging. This is something we just added last minute because we thought like this will be really useful if you're really implementing TBM and trying to tie PCF with Apptio or any other stuff. So what it does is like in the PCF 2.2, it has got a nice feature, custom tagging, where you can say, okay, Cloud Controller, this is the tag. So it all the way takes to the underlying IaaS. So if it is Azure, they might have different tagging mechanism. If it is Google, they have different tagging mechanism. But the Cloud Controller automatically translates that into their corresponding tagging mechanism. And when you see the reports from the IaaS, you will see, oh, okay, this component is from PCF. This is the Diago cell. This is the app that is using the VM of the IaaS. All those things can be mapped. So it's basically like, these days we search the file names with just file name. We don't anymore go through the structure, right, in the folders. We just type the file name and get it. Same way, the tags are going to get used. So this is what we are going to use for the current 2.2. We are already into 2.2 now in prod. And this was kind of a blocker for us to have a connection between IaaS data and the PCF data. So now we have this completely integrated. So this is going to be really useful. And there are other systems also, for example, in the CMDB and the VMware, vSphere, those guys can also start linking the tags and tie to the change management. So it's not just between PCF and the IaaS layer, but it's also the other tools like change management and finance tools. All those things can now connect and get a good picture of connecting all these components. It's not just PCF, everything. So this is really cool from PCF 2.2 feature. So yeah, we just want your participation. Just wanted to know, like, if you're into TBM, what are the cost model you use?
Is anyone doing showback, chargeback? What are you using today? It'd be a great opportunity to kind of share across what different folks are doing. So it's all on the wish list, the to-do list, the what's coming next list.
It's good to know Mastercard is leading in this front.
So a lot of, there is some work that's very usable today, like with your usage report, Raj, that you guys are doing today, so you can get some data. But this work in progress work, we're hoping will be completely automated so that you don't have any intervention, you have pipelines that are running it, and you can get really good information back to the business units so they have better forecast capabilities, right? When they're doing forecasting for new apps and such, they're getting a better sense of what the costs underneath the hood. Today, the only way they can really do it is with a flat charge model per AI. Kind of shock, gives people sticker shock, but it uses a lot of, it provides not only the AIs, it's a foundation, all the equipment, it's support, it's the operational control center, all of that is rolled into that cost. And that has to be explained to them today. Later on, they'll have all those charges in a very clean manner. I'm really,
right.
I think
Yeah, just to add to Chris' thing, it's basically the developers are now more kind of aware of what's the value they're giving to the organization. So unless you attach a cost to whatever product they're working on, they're not going to realize, am I working on $1 billion or am I working on a few $1,000 product? No. But when you start seeing the usage in the foundation, the developer gets an idea, oh, okay, so we are having this much cost and we are going to make this much money. All those things comes through this metrics. So this basically gives a very healthy environment for everyone knowing everything. So that's the key for any organizations to come up, right? So this is basically a kind of linchpin for all the transparencies. So glad that we are in this track.
Does anybody have any questions about our experiences here? I see a hand jumped up in the back there.
How was the news received once you started
Yeah, basically the whole reporting structure is with the finance team. So finance gets everything through the Apptio, and there is access to Apptio from all the business anytime can log in and see what is my cost for today. So we are doing that as part of the Apptio's reporting. So it's basically access to the Apptio.
So where I might more go with this, IT is always looked at as a cost
Expense.
So you're putting numbers back. Is there more
That-
pressure on IT to track, to pull that number down?
Right, that's a good question. So the question is like IT is seen as an expense, then how do you show those things as a value? It's basically fundamentally ties to the TBM methodology. Like TBM takes care of showing the value of each and every product that is running in the PCF and other environments. So currently, if you see, the value we show is comparison between the traditional environment and the speed to the market. All those things are now very much transparent. So, and also the reduction of deployment times from weeks and months to days, that has totally transformed. Like there's no another justification for the teams to move into PCF. So right now, many application teams are waiting, when are we going to get onboarded, So we are trying to, with a lot of process, the change management is now integrated, the ALM is integrated. So PCF is not in its own island. It is still part of the whole ecosystem where the existing enterprise tools are also talking to it. So for example, we have integrated Splunk, and we have integrated Apptio, as you know, and we have integrated with the command center, the operations command center. We are integrated with Tivoli, that's the Tivoli monitoring. So all these enterprise tools are now getting fed by this PCF. So this naturally makes a smooth, journey for the developers, and developers don't even know how their Splunk is being integrated. It's all transparent to them. They just deploy CF push, and they see things in the Splunk. So all these things have taken the friction among the development community. So we can really see that developers embrace this, whatever we are doing. So, and even though we are 6 team members, there is a big value addition from the time to market perspective too. Yeah.
You mentioned CMDB. 2 questions. What is your CMDB? And second question is, how do you create your configure items in your CMDB?
Yeah, I'm not really from CMDB. The question is, what is CMDB and how are you using it, and how are the configuration items being tracked? So the CMDB is a configuration management database. What it does is like configuration item, like an asset, a physical asset or a software asset, is kind of tied. For example, if a Cisco switch XYZ is being changed or is being switched off, what are the impacts? What are the other configuration items are getting affected? So what this does is like it helps the change management to be aware of what's the impact. The whole impact matrix is given by the CMDB. So when somebody is saying that I'm going to change this F5, so immediately the change management team is going to know if this F5 is going to go belly up, what are the other things, So this is something the CMDB helps to give a bigger picture. And configuration items, for example, like we have a metadata, this tag that keeps running from all these environments, and it's going to populate into the CMDB database. Okay, so this XYZ app is tied to these many CI items. So that metadata is kept refreshed every day, so that any new changes happens, the impact analysis automatically is done.
As well as the enterprise structure we talked about earlier, the kind of
Framework,
service
service
view, if you will, of business, shared services, infrastructure. That CBM, the CMDB, is driven by that structure as well, so they know what everything is a part of and how it rolls up.
What is that tooling that creates the CIs based on the app, the foundation?
Well,
So we have a discovering tool.
it's all Tivoli.
I think right now we are BMC, I think BMC Patrol Discovery tool is also being used, I think, for the discovery of all the CI items, because it's no more manual. It's going to be auto-discover what is out there in the environment, and it'll start mapping into the dependencies. So I think to answer, it's the discovery tool that we use to populate our CMDB, all the CIs.
What is your CMDB that starts now, or is it?
I think it's CMDB engine. I'm not really part of the team, so CMDB engine is what we use. It's a service. Yeah, IBM. Okay. Thanks, Bill. Any more questions? Yes, please.
Have you found that visibility into the expense of systems has led to shutting down things that are unnecessary or working complexity out of the system?
That's a very good point. Actually, we did find, especially from the public cloud, like we opened things for the developers, and we did find that the developers kept things running even though they don't use it. So those are the things that we got from the reporting, saying that this many VMs have been like running idle for this many minutes and all those things. So we started to kind of close down on those, and we immediately showed those reports to the developers. So the business realized that, and they made a new process to make sure that end of day they shut down things, and go home. So that is something we did find out. Yeah. From the on-prem side, we still didn't have much of visibility, because we are going to use what is needed, and there is a process to invoke things. And usually in our on-prems, it's all like well contained. Only in the public side, public clouds, things are kind of little wild, so we want to put a kind of a control over that. So yeah, we do have that way to address that.
And your
Yes.
showback is a PCF organization analogous with like a business unit or like a delivery team or something like that. How do you tie AI count back to like a business group of people?
Okay. So the question is like, how do you relate the AIs to the real services side, or the physical people? So basically, these AIs are having part of orgs and spaces, and these orgs belong to certain frameworks or the services in our business domain. So we have this tying up, like the service framework will correspond to the org, and when the report gets generated, the reports are for each org and each space, which ties back to the business unit, which is owning that service. So that's how we tie those things.
How do you define that relationship though? Is it manually or?
No, actually we have a way to map those services to the orgs, and it's up to the developers know which service they are working on, and we have an automation where developers can go and request in a YAML file, hey, we want to do this XYZ org, and we automatically take care of those things. So when the report gets generated, it gets sent to all the business, like this org, which is this particular service, is using this much, and this is the cost. So that comes back as a report from the Apptio. Yes, please.
How many AI or SI do you run running each day?
The question is how many AIs and SIs you run. It depends on the environment. Definitely in a couple thousands in each of those foundations. And we are growing actually in each prod environment as the business is pushing on new applications. We are growing every day. And it's all automated. Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you.
And
So these are the resources. Sure.
yeah, just some resources we kind of listed for you of some things, so you have a takeaway when you download the presentation. So, but I think that's about it. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
spending the end of the day with us.
So you guys have more stamina than anybody else. Thank you.
Thanks.